Legislative Day number 11 will now come to order. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation. I will now call upon Councilwoman Bevins, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Is there a motion to approve the journal for the meeting of May 23rd, 2019?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. The journal is approved. Bills 15-19, 16-19, 18-19, 19-19, 20-19, 21-19, and 22-19 were passed by the council, signed by the executive, and are hereby enrolled. Bill 17-19 is also enrolled. Mr. Secretary, we now read all bills for introduction, please.
Mr. Chair, there are two bills for introduction this evening, both sponsored by Councilwoman Bevins. Bill 30-19, entitled Zoning Regulations RC3 Zone. Bill 31-19, entitled Zoning Regulations Uses Permitted in the ML Zone Car Washes.
All righty. The council will now consider our bills for final reading and vote. Mr. Secretary, first bill, please.
Bill 24-19, Current Expense Budget Executive Direction.
And I know we have Kimberly Rutson here to testify. And good evening, Kim.
Good evening, Chairman Quirk and members of the council. I'm here presenting bill number 24-19. The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of private funds totaling $1,000 from the Student Support Network, Inc. to the Student Support Network Internship Gifts and Grants Fund program. The funds will be donated to offer a paid internship to a student from Goucher College to assist with updating and revising the Emergency Resource Guide for Baltimore County. Partnering with the Student Support Network on this project is part of the administration's broader efforts to follow through on several policy recommendations suggested in Baltimore County's 2019 transition report. This report places a strong emphasis on increasing engagement with the nonprofit and philanthropic communities to leverage funds and other resources. Thank you.
And Mr. Secretary, I understand there's one amendment to Bill 24-19?
There is a technical amendment, Mr. Chair. It essentially changes the budget description and the title of the bill from executive direction to Student Support Network Internship.
And I'll move that amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 24-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
The amendment passes. Are there any questions or comments on Bill 24-19 as amended? Is there a motion to approve Bill 24-19 as amended?
So moved. Second.
Been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 24-19 as amended.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Bill 24-19 as amended is passed. Thank you. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next is Bill 25-19, also current expense budget, Senior Assisted Living Group Home Subsidy.
And I believe Ms. Laura Riley is here to testify. Making her way up. And good evening, Ms. Riley.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of state funds totaling $178,325 to the Senior Assisted Living Group Home Subsidy Program Gifts and Grants. This is in excess of our original grant award. Funds will be used to provide additional subsidies for county seniors 62 and older who receive assisted living services.
And are there any questions or comments from the members for Ms. Riley on Bill 25-19? All right. Mr. Secretary, hearing none, please call the roll on Bill 25-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Bill 25-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Bill 26-19, Current Expense Budget Senior Care Program.
Ms. Riley?
The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of state funds totaling $64,600 to the Senior Care Program's Gifts and Grant Fund. Funds will be used to provide gap-filling services such as home health care and medication assistance to eligible seniors on the program's wait list.
Are there any questions or comments for the members on Bill 26-19? All right. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 26-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Bill 26-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Bill 27-19, Current Expense Budget Vulnerable Elderly Programs Initiative Program.
And Ms. Riley?
Yes, sir. The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of state funds totaling $24,194 to the Vulnerable Elderly Programs Initiatives Gifts and Grant Fund to increase the amount originally appropriated in our grant award. These funds will be used to supplement other programs, including state health insurance assistance, the Ombudsman, and the guardianship program.
And Mr. Secretary, I understand there's an amendment to Bill 27-19?
There is a technical amendment, Mr. Chair. It would strike the last two words of the title, of the third line of the title, so that it reads that it is the Vulnerable Elderly Programs and not Initiative Program, just about vulnerable elderly programs.
Is there a motion to approve the amendment to Bill 27-19?
So move.
Second.
Been motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 27-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
The amendment passes. Are there any questions or comments on Bill 27-19 as amended from the council? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve Bill 27-19 as amended?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 27-19 as amended.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Bill 27-19 as amended is passed. And Ms. Riley, I know we'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
So thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Councilman Cap?
Mr. Blades, have a question. We have a $5,000 supplemental appropriation from the state, another $1,000 from, I don't know, some group. Do you know how much does it cost us as a county to apply for these grants of $1,000 or $5,000? I mean, it is worth our while.
I believe it's worth our while. The small, the $1,000 grant it was really less of an application, more so just reaching out to an organization who was willing to provide those funds for the student intern. So yes, I think they're.
What about the $5,000 one? I mean, between the county employees that have to go after the money and the state employees that have to deal with it, I mean, we're talking about $5,000.
Well, sometimes, Councilmember Catch, it's not that we have to apply at all, but they'll reach out to us to say there's additional funds available, and they make funds available to us that other jurisdictions didn't use or what have you. I can't recall if this was a specific one, but in meeting with Laura, we were talking about just that. If you have a good track record, often the state will say, we have these additional funds, can you use them?
So it's not a situation where you spend 2 or 3 days.
Correct.
Okay, good.
In many instances, they're looking at us because we've been good stewards of the other funds.
All righty. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next bill is Bill 28-19, Current Expense Budget Summer Program and Community Arts Development.
And I see we have Mr. Barry Williams here to testify. Bill 28-19, do we, Summer Program Community Arts Development? Okay. And good evening.
And good evening to all.
The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of state funds totaling $5,000 to the Summer Program and Community Arts Development Gifts and Grants Fund Program. The funds will be used for the installation of artwork in various Baltimore County government buildings and to supplement the Commission on Arts and Sciences grants to local arts organizations.
Are there any questions or comments from the members for Mr. Williams? Everybody good? Everybody good? All right, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 28-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Bill 28-19 is passed, and I know we'll see you a little bit later
Yes.
today as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. All right, the council will now consider all fiscal matters. Extensive testimony was taken at the council's work session on May 28, 2019. The witnesses who testified at the work session are available to restate their testimony if needed. If a council member has any questions regarding a particular fiscal matter, that item will be discussed as a separate matter. I will now call upon the Secretary to read the cover letter for fiscal matters 1 through 6.
Mr. Chair, fiscal matter 1 is 2 contracts for on-call lead abatement services for the Office of Budget and Finance. Fiscal matter 2 is a contract with Bolton Partners Incorporated, employee benefit consulting services. Fiscal matter 3 is a budget appropriation transfer, Office of Budget and Finance, Administrative Office. But fiscal matter 4 is also a budget appropriation transfer, Baltimore County Public Schools. Fiscal matter 5 is a budget appropriation transfer within the Department of Public Works. And fiscal matter 6 is a conditional contract of sale with the state of Maryland, 11,767 Owings Mills Boulevard.
Are there any questions or comments from the members on any of these fiscal matters? Councilman Patoka.
Yes. Are we too late in the fiscal year to do any additional BATs or budget appropriation transfers?
This is the last council meeting before the end of the fiscal year.
Is there any other mechanism, if there's a need that's been identified that can't wait until next fiscal year, is there any mechanism available to the county, even if it's a small amount, but there's a very necessary function that needs to be addressed, and there's not, rather than wait an entire year, what mechanisms do we have in place to address those kinds of needs?
Well, there are other surplus funds throughout the county in each department. Not every single department goes down to exactly zero, so it would depend on exactly the issue that you're discussing and what department it affects. So
Okay.
we would have to take a look at it.
Is that both on the executive side and on the council side? If it's a need in the legislative side?
You mean in the county council budget?
Yes.
You would have to look at your operating budget and make that judgment call. You have a large.
But is there time within this fiscal year?
Yes.
Instead of waiting until July 1, 2021?
If there's a current need
July
right now, then you would
2020,
talk to your budget
2020.
person.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the members on any of the fiscal matters 1 through 6? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve fiscal matters 1 through 6?
So moved.
What, second?
Been a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on fiscal matters 1 through 6.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch? Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Fiscal matters 1 through 6 are approved. We will now consider miscellaneous business. Mr. Secretary, first item, please.
Resolution 62-19 is a resolution to amend the Baltimore County Water Supply and Sewerage Plan.
And I know we have Mr. Steve Walsh here to testify. Good evening, Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Resolution 62-19 would amend the Baltimore County Water Supply and Sewerage Plan Cycle 2018. This is an out-of-cycle amendment to the plan, and it adds clarity to the specific engineering pipelines that are shown in the plan for the Trade Point development. the plan went through, or this amendment went through the normal advertising and approval processes, going through the planning board, going through the departments, then the planning board, and then ultimately is here for your approval.
Are there any questions or comments from the council for Mr. Walsh on Resolution 62-19? Councilman Marks?
Not on the resolution, but I just want to thank you and your staff, and Ms. Schindel was here as well, and the county executives, the staff as well, for their response to the storm in the Perry Hall, White Marsh area on Wednesday night. You really performed very admirably. Our first responders as well did a terrific job, and I just wanted to publicly thank everyone involved.
Thank you. I'll relay that to the troops. There were 62 trees down that night.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was a big one.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 62-19?
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 62-19. Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Resolution 62-19 is passed. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 63-19 is a resolution for the authorization to accept a donation, Maryland Department of Health Overdose Prevention.
And I see Dr. Branch making his way up. Good evening, Dr. Branch.
The administration is requesting permission to accept a donation specifically for 1,600 doses of naloxone and 600 fentanyl strips valued at $60,600 from the Maryland Department of Health for our harm reduction program.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Branch? Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. Second.
Been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 63-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Resolution 63-19 is passed. Thank you, Dr. Branch. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 64-19 ranks the 5 rural legacy area plan applications.
And I see Mr. Peter Gutwald is here to testify. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. This resolution is prioritizing the 5 Rural Legacy Area Programs applications submitted for the state for FY20. As you know, the state Rural Legacy Program, it works on preserving large blocks of natural resources and working landscapes, and the state requires local jurisdictions with more than 2 rural legacy areas to rank them. So the department has ranked the applications on the ability of the land trust to obtain easements, amount of land preserved, size of the contiguous protected lands, protection of water quality and progress. The recommended ranking order is Piney Run, Manor, Gunpowder, Coastal, and Long Green.
Are there any questions or comments from the council? Is everybody good?
One comment.
Councilman Patoka.
Mr. Gutwald, good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to say that I'm hearing really positive statements about your leadership at the planning department. And just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve
So
resolution?
moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 64-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Resolution 64-19 is passed. Thank you, Mr. Gutwald. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 65-19, authorization application for grants MTA aging.
And I see Miss Laura Riley working her way back up. It's nice to see you again, Miss Riley. I think this might be your last one tonight, I think.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I am here requesting on behalf of the administration a resolution to authorize the Baltimore County Department of Aging Director to file an application with the Maryland Transit Administration of the Maryland Department of Transportation for Section 5311 a grant under the Federal Transit Act that funds our county ride.
And are there any questions or comments for Ms. Riley? All right, is there a motion to approve Resolution 65-19?
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, please call a roll on Resolution 65-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Resolution 65-19 is passed. Thanks, Ms. Riley. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 66-19, authorization to accept donation, Brothers Before Others, Spring Lake Park.
And I see Mr. Barry Wills. And good evening again, Mr. Wills.
Good evening again. Resolution 6619 authorizes the county to accept the monetary donation of $5,866 from the Brothers Before Others nonprofit organization comprised of active and retired police officers from across the U.S. for the purchase and installation of a memorial bench and plaque. The amenities are in memory of Delaney Marie Gaddis and Deborah Ann Limmer, who were killed by an impaired driver in July 2018. The department advised that BBO met with Brian Gaddis, Delaney Marie Gaddis' father, and a Baltimore County police officer. The department also advised that Mr. Gaddis requested that the memorial be installed at Spring Lake Park in Cockeysville, which is near both the accident scene and Miss Limmer's residence.
And are there any, I know we have an amendment, so maybe we'll do the amendment and then we'll open up for questions and comments. And I think it's an important amendment, Mr. Bostrick.
It is an important technical amendment, though, but it is important. There are two places in the resolution, in the first whereas clause and in the first resolved clause, that have $5,866,000, at least in terms of the number. So the administration is requesting to substitute that with $5,866, which is, of course, the proper amount.
And
That was on me to catch. but Ed caught it during the work session.
That's like
He
it's
started
paid the big
laughing.
dollars. That's a
But I
good
should have
catch, Ed.
seen that.
All
I
righty.
apologize.
And I will certainly move that amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Resolution 66-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
And the amendment passes. Now, why don't we, are there any questions or comments on this as amended? Any questions, Councilman Catch?
Quickly, is the public allowed in the Spring Lake Park?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because part of it is not. They're not allowed to go in certain parts of it,
You mean in the lake itself?
near the lake, near the lake.
Near
Not,
the lake.
not just the lake, but the
Okay.
area in front of the lake.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I will need to investigate that
Oh, yeah,
because my understanding is the entire park area is open to all.
No. Okay. Well, we'll get
Yeah.
into it.
I'll check it out.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Everybody good? All right, is there a motion to approve Resolution 66-19 as amended?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call a roll on Resolution 66-19 as amended.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 66-19 is passed as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 67-19 is sponsored by Councilman Quirk and is a resolution to authorize the refund of property taxes paid by Isaac B. Bird, who is entitled to a refund under state law as a disabled veteran.
And I will proudly move that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Then motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call a roll on Resolution 67-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Resolution 67-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 68-19 is sponsored by Councilman Crandall, and this is a resolution to authorize the property tax refund to Michael J. McQuaid, who is entitled to a refund under state law as a disabled veteran.
It's my honor to move the resolution.
Second.
Been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call a roll on Resolution 68-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Resolution 68-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 70-19 is sponsored by Councilwoman Bevins. This is a resolution to authorize the property tax refund to Reuben Powell, who is entitled to a refund under state law as a disabled veteran.
I'm honored to move it.
I'll second.
With a motion and second, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 70-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 70-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 71-19 is sponsored by Councilwoman Bevins. This is a resolution to authorize the property tax refund to Timothy Nesmith, who is entitled to a refund under state law as a disabled veteran.
I'm honored to move it.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 71-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Resolution 71-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is an appointment. This is an appointment to confirm the county executive's nomination of Michael D. Malinoff as Director of the Department of Permits, Approvals, and Inspections.
Excellent. I see Mr. Malinoff come on up. And of course, it was great to talk to you. We do appreciate your time, and I don't know if you had anything you wanted to say, or you wanted to.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I do want to mention one more thing above and beyond what I said. I was at a breakfast the other morning, and I heard Councilman Jones ask a question of the speaker whether there was a big impact on her leadership by being one woman among four brothers. And I have a similar experience. I am one of seven. I have 6 sisters, and I am right in the middle. And that has helped me do the work that I'm here today, and they're all strong women. And when I heard that, I just had to mention it today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Jones.
that will explain your hairdo. But at least you have hair.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Malinoff? Any other questions? Councilman Patoka.
Yes. So I wish I had your hairdo.
Thank you.
You and I both.
But Mr. Malinoff, I just want to thank you for being so proactive in addressing needs that we mentioned, that at least I mentioned casually to you, and really taking charge and being very proactive and acting very quickly on issues that have been lingering that have been problematic, I should say, in the 2nd District for a long, long time. I think your approach is really refreshing, and I look forward to working with you for the next 4 years.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the council? Beside Councilman Jones?
Mr. Malinoff, I certainly apologize if I offended you in any way.
No, I've heard it once or twice before.
No, but of course, it was good talking with you this afternoon. It's good to know we know so many mutual people. So I welcome you aboard, sir. Thank you.
Councilwoman Bevins?
Well, I just was like that. I'm one of 7, so I get it.
A little on numbers. I look forward to working together. I really enjoyed our conversation. I think your experience and qualifications you bring to the county are exceptional, and I look forward to working with you creatively to help business and revitalization and redevelopment. And so I'll move your appointment.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the appointment.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
The appointment is confirmed.
you.
Congratulations, Mr. Malinoff. All right. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Mr. Chair, next is another appointment. This is the county executive's nomination of Melissa R. Hyatt to be the next chief of the Baltimore County Police Department.
And good evening, Ms. Hyatt.
Good evening. Mr. Chair and members of the council, I'm sincerely honored to have been nominated by the county executive and the county administrative officer for the position of chief for the Baltimore County Police Department. Further, I appreciate the level of trust and responsibility that they are placing in me. I hope that during our time together last week and the time that we had this afternoon, that you recognize my sincerity and passion for providing quality law enforcement leadership to Baltimore County. I look forward to working with each of you in the future, meeting your constituents, learning about the neighborhoods and communities that you oversee, and learning about the public safety goals for each of them. I'm elated about this opportunity to join the ranks of the Baltimore County Police Department. This department is an outstanding organization comprised of men and women who work diligently every day to keep the citizens in our county safe. In fact, they have kept my own family safe over the course of my lifetime as a lifelong citizen of Baltimore County. I am excited to contribute my leadership to further their public safety mission. Every agency holds its share of challenges and opportunities, and I look forward to embarking on both with this organization. I understand the unwavering need to work to strengthen public trust, build relationships with the community, and have strong, open lines of communication. Additionally, I recognize the necessity of fostering an equitable environment within the police department, where our police officers can develop, flourish, and serve. I commit to working diligently on these and other priorities with the women and men of the Baltimore County Police Department as we build on the successes of my predecessors. My background and training have prepared me for this leadership role, and I am certain that my experiences and work ethic will complement the efforts currently underway in the police department. My over 20 years in this profession have exposed me to a spectrum of ideas and opportunities which I look forward to bringing to Baltimore County. I sincerely appreciate the valuable time that we have spent together. It was insightful to learn about your priorities and concerns regarding public safety in Baltimore County. I look forward to working collectively with all of you, with our public safety partners in Baltimore County, and with our community members to resolve issues and achieve success together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hyatt, and I do see our County Executive, Johnny Oshevsky, in the back, so thank you, Mr. Executive, for joining us. And then I want to open up to questions or comments from the council. Councilman Catch.
Yes, Mike, please don't take offense to what I'm going to say, but one of the members of the council made the statement that your appointment is the most important appointment that the county executive has made, because obviously we want a safe county, and it's very, very damaging to our county when you read about crime here, crime there. And so I look forward to working with you. I was very impressed with your record, your answers to questions, and you know that I just think it's so important that the police have a very strong relationship with the community. And I look forward to working with you, and so I obviously intend to support your nomination.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the council? Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. I'll echo Councilman Catch's comments. I found your responses quite satisfactory, very in-depth, very concise and crisp and cogent, and I also enjoyed our conversation earlier today. So thank you for that. There's a phrase in our business that's perception is reality. And it means, I think, in terms of public safety, that even though the statistics demonstrate that we have low levels of violent crime, there is still a level of apprehension and unease among many citizens. How do you think the Baltimore County Police Department can continue to improve the relationships between the precincts and the neighborhoods they serve?
So I think there are a few things. To begin with, in terms of crime numbers and things like that, my intention is to find avenues of very transparent ways of getting crime information and crime data out to the public. And of course, I need to assess what's currently being done right now. In terms of relationship building, and part of the conversation that we had earlier today about things like COP walks, there are a lot of different opportunities. We're getting ready to move into summer. With the kids out of school, there are a lot of opportunities to engage with youth and other organizations. I think the possibilities are really endless. I'm interested in seeing right now what the police department is currently engaged with in terms of work with the communities. But I think on that precinct level, being able to make sure that we have all officers that are out on patrol beats having those types of positive interactions with people really helps build relationships, and there will be a lot of opportunities for that.
Thank you.
And Councilman Jones?
Yes, good evening, Ms. Hyatt.
Good evening.
I just wanted to say, first of all, appreciate you answering the questions last week. Was it last week? Yeah, last week. And I think most people know that I have been a very proponent and supporter of the police officers that are here, that have been here for 25 and 35 years, the current colonels. And I had hoped that the county executive would have selected one of them. That comes from my background, having been 33 years in the fire department. I know what people do with their own organization. That said, the county executive certainly has a right to pick who he wants. And although I have tremendous concerns with some of the behavior of some in the Baltimore Police Department, I certainly don't hold you responsible for that or paint you with the same brush. And I certainly have not found any reason to suggest that you would not do well and be well as a chief here. So I will be supporting you, and I certainly congratulate you and wish you well, because your success is tied to Baltimore County success, and we want us all to do well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Crandall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm going to call you Mrs. Hyatt right now. I'll call you Chief in a few minutes. So I enjoyed our conversation today, and I found that your answers, I'll add to what Councilman Mark said about your answers to some of our questions, both publicly and in our meeting today, are extremely consistent. And I think that just shows a lot about your experience and about your passion, and I think that that comes through. And I said something today that I've seen in you, and just working with law enforcement in the past 5 years in capacity as a council member. You're a cop. So you should be proud of that. And welcome to Baltimore County. And as I also said to you today, we need you to be great. So and that's our hope for you, that you have a very successful term of service.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Patuka?
Mrs. Hyatt, I just want to share what the feedback that I've heard in my district on your nomination. When I ran for office, I knocked on over 11,000 doors, and each person that answered the door, I asked them what their number one priority was, and public safety was overwhelmingly the answer that I received. And so it became my number one priority running for office. And so when you were nominated, I once again went out to the communities in the 2nd District and said, well, what do you know, public safety is our number one priority. What do you think of the nomination? And overwhelmingly in the 2nd District, I heard support for your nomination. So I will be voting in favor of your nomination and hope that you're the next chief of police for Baltimore County.
Thank you.
And Ms. Hyatt, I definitely appreciated the time you spent with the council, and I found the discussion we had was fantastic, and I really do appreciate your experience and your knowledge and everything you're bringing toward the county. I mean, I do think there's some concern with citizens in the county about really holding the line, obviously, on crime and making sure we continue to really protect that sometimes very thin line. And I think you're the right person at the right time. And so I really, really do appreciate your service and appreciate all the officers that you have with you in the exec corps and from, the patrol officer on up is so important in the work that you do. And obviously, I know many, many issues and concerns. The police are asked to do so much with what I think is very little. We're doing the best we can. Obviously, speeding in neighborhoods might be the number one thing I get every single day. Like slowing down speeding in neighborhoods is something I hear continually nonstop. And pedestrian safety, so actually kids can walk across crosswalks and cars don't speed up. So those are two things I know that we have a lot of work to do, but I did want to commend the county exec, and I did want to commend you for stepping up to this really, really important position. Councilwoman Bevins?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Hi, it's good to see you again. As I spoke at the work session last week, I was very honored and felt very privileged to have been selected by the county executive to be on the search committee for the new police chief for Baltimore County. And it was not an easy task. We had a lot of qualified people from within the organization, our Baltimore County Police Department, and throughout the nation. And it was not an easy decision. There were so many qualified people. And Mr. Jones, I just want to let you know that I understand what you're saying from coming from within the department, but I wish you would have been there for the interview process. I think I said this last week. You're sitting there because you deserve to be there. And I echo everything that my colleagues have said this evening. And I feel very privileged to be sitting here. This is a historic day in Baltimore County for sure, to have our first female as our police chief. And I feel very honored and privileged to be able to move that motion for your confirmation this evening.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve the appointment. If there's a second, any other discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the appointment.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Catch?
Aye.
The appointment is confirmed. Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 72-19, authorization to accept donation, Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services 911 Center. This resolution is for introduction only this evening.
Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 73-19, entitled Planning Board Conversion of Commercial Space Condominium Apartment Style Buildings, sponsored by Councilman Marks, for introduction only this evening.
Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
And Resolution 74-19, also sponsored by Councilman Marks, Baltimore County Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, expanding bicycle parking requirements, for introduction only this evening.
All right. Mr. Secretary, is any farther business to come before the County Council?
There is no further business, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Catch?
I just want to say my mother was born 100 years ago today.
No.
Oh, wow.
Happy birthday and
This is great.
Wow.
That's right. Councilman Patoka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to acknowledge a resident from the 2nd District that represents the Republican Central Committee. Ruth Getz is here today.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. As is customary, anyone who signed up prior to the meeting with the Secretary is allowed 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Secretary, any speakers signed up for this evening? And I did want to note we do have a public hearing after the public speakers too, so we'll be doing that after this.
Yes, sir, and there are 2 speakers signed up.
All righty. Good catch. All right. Our first speaker is Kara Penalowitz, followed by Ruth Getz. And if you wouldn't come on up and to 3 minutes to speak. Talk to our secretary. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Quirk and council members. My name is Kara Panowitz, and I work for No Kid Hungry Maryland. As you know, 43% of students in Baltimore County are eligible for free and reduced price meals, which is about 50,000 kids. In the summer, when school meals aren't available, kids and teens can access free meals through the free summer meals program at schools and community sites around the county. I hope you'll help us spread the word about this resource to families, as well as to places that may want to serve meals at no cost to the site or to the family. Families can find sites by visiting mdsummermeals.org, calling 211, or texting food or comida to 877-877, which is on the flyer that you all have with the crab on it. We'd also love for you to visit a site in your district to see this important program in action. I'll be following up with more information. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. Councilman Patoka?
Yes. Is this, do you work with Mr. Large?
I do,
Kevin
yes.
Large?
I do.
Then this must be an outstanding organization because Mr. Large is a fine young man that always works for good causes.
I will tell him you said that.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ruth Getz. And good evening, Ms. Getz.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and council members. I just wanted to, reiterate, the last time I testified was against the tax increases, which were voted for and everything passed. So, and I also want to thank Councilman Crandall for voting against the budget, the lone vote against the budget. And what I've seen as being part of the Republican Central Committee in the county is that there are many voters that are not happy about the tax increase and would like to see more accountability for our tax dollars. And just basically that Baltimore County is becoming a less desirable place with our crime going up, sanctuary policies, overcrowded schools, school buildings in third world condition, and our new taxes. And I would like to congratulate our new chief, Hyatt, and hopefully she'll improve the crime that we are living under in Baltimore County, especially this past Saturday morning at 5 a.m. in a gated community. There was a burglary at 5 a.m. and the homeowner was injured. And that's pretty much in my neighborhood and District 2. So, and I want to thank Councilman Patoka for stopping by at the booth that the Republican Party had at the JCC block party yesterday on Sunday. Thank you.
Councilman Patoka.
Thank you, Ms. Getz, for providing testimony. And you're right, our schools do need to be improved, and that's one of the reasons we had to make a very difficult decision last week. None of us here wants to increase taxes. That's not our desire at all. But we needed to make an adjustment because we have schools in our district. About 1.5 miles from you on one side is Bedford. It has no air conditioning. And our kids, that's not a conducive learning environment for our children. And about 1.5 miles from you on the other side is Summit Park Elementary, which has not 2, not 4, not 6, not 8, but 10 trailers. And so we had to make a very difficult decision in what we did last week. But what a wise man once told me is the easiest decisions that an elected official will make are those that benefit the minority of the present. The most difficult decisions that we make are those that benefit the majority of the future. Thank you for coming today.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we do have,
Mr. Chair.
Councilman.
I wanted to know how many trailers were outside that building. 10. Oh, yeah, 10. Okay, got it.
All right, we do have a third public speaker before we get into the public hearing, and that is somebody we know well, Mr. Dwayne Davis. And good evening, Mr. Davis.
All those wonderful things. We ready to start?
We're ready.
3 minutes, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, you just, how you doing, Councilman Izzy Patako? I'm
doing well, thank you.
I need that letter that you promised me back in March. I never got that letter. The last county meeting I came to, you said you was going to give me a letter pertaining to my issue at hand.
I don't think that was me, sir.
All right, well.
I heard you speak on it, but I don't remember a discussion.
All right, well, Johnny Oleski asked for a federal investigation into my kidnapping when I was kidnapped here February the 7th, 2011. I just spoke to Commander Hyatt, because Commander Hyatt just came from Baltimore City, and we have a very good relationship, all right? She's also going to be a witness in that federal investigation, all right? Now, I'm asking for my property for the umpteenth time. I'm asking for my property and be compensated for my losses. You're my county representative, city, county, state, and federal levels. Taxation without representation is a violation of my constitutional rights. And me as a tax-paying citizen, I'm confronting you as my county board members to address this issue. I got 3 minutes. I got a minute and a half left, almost 2 minutes left. And I need you to answer that. Your lawyer over there, Mr. Fields, won't even open his mouth. At the conclusion of a trial and a person is found innocent of all charges, he's supposed to be compensated for his losses and his property is supposed to be returned. The state kidnapped me because I was making a documentary about your racism in your courts and your county board. We're talking about the housing over there on Padonia Road when y'all had a listing for 25 houses and y'all ended up giving a variance for 75. We're talking about the play-to-play politics here in the Baltimore County Council. Now, I didn't want to do this, but if you'd have just went after Schellenberger and gave me my property, I wouldn't have to dig into y'all. But this federal investigation, I'm going to give them 3 hours of testimony, and I'm going to offer them all the testimony that I've been here with you. Okay? I need my property. I'm homeless. Been homeless since 2011 when y'all locked me up. And I'm tired of being homeless. I was worth $260,000 a year. I was paying taxes. I was a tax-paying citizen. That's like the Chief Justice Tawney from Maryland back in 1857. I am Dred Scott. Blacks have no rights in which white America respects. Well, in Baltimore County, I was doing a social scientific experiment just about that. And I got it on file, on record, and it's with the Department of Justice already. I already had a case filed. Chief Justice Roberts of the Supreme Court, when I started this in 2007, I wrote them and told them what I was going to do. Judge Cox has a writ of certiorari. So if you don't rule on this, if you don't act on this, that means I got a direct appeal to the Supreme Court on a writ of certiorari, a meritorious case. My property is a meritorious case. Kidnapping is a meritorious case. Racism is a meritorious case. We're going to address this, or we're going to get the silent treatment again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Before we go into the public hearing, any other questions or comments or thoughts from the council before we start the public hearing? All right. The public hearing of the Baltimore County Council will now come to order. We're holding this public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Baltimore County Charter and the Baltimore County Code on the following issue. Historic Landmarks List Edition, Glen Arm Railroad Station and Setting, 5205 Glen Arm Road, 21057. I will now read the rules for procedure for public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak should have registered with the secretary prior to the hearing at the table outside the chambers. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that there's a clock in front of you that will display the remaining time as you speak. The council members, if they desire, may then ask brief questions. When a speaker is called, the name of the next speaker will also be called. This person is asked to come forward and be prepared to speak as well. Peter Gutwald and Terry Rising from the Department of Planning will speak briefly on the proposed landmarks addition. If you got Mr. Gutwald and Ms. Rising, if you want to come on up. And Ms. Rising. And good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of council. I'm here to introduce preliminary landmark number 412, the Glen Arm Railroad Station and Setting, excluding post-1981 additions and sheds at 5205 Glen Arm Road and Glen Arm. The structure was placed on the preliminary landmarks list on June 14, 2018 by the Baltimore County Landmarks Preservation Commission in accordance with county law. The former Glen Arm Railroad Station was constructed circa 1909 to serve the Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad until it ceased operations in the 1950s. The former station is significant in a local historic context for its association with the transportation history of Baltimore County and for the supporting role it played in the development and expansion of the agricultural and manufacturing industry that thrived in the Long Green Valley in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The station is also a contributing structure in the Long Green Valley National Register Historic District, which was listed in 1982. The building retains a visible association with the former railroad bed and surrounding structures, including the former FX Hooper plant site across the street. The authenticity of the property's historic identity is evident by the survival of significant architectural features like the windows and door openings and decorative roof brackets that were constructed during the property's historic period. Although the structure has visibly deteriorated in some places and is the recipient of poorly designed modifications on the east elevation, the former station resembles its historic appearance with the retention of physical materials, design features, and aspects of construction. It is especially unique as the only surviving station associated with this rail line that retains any integrity in setting or architecture. While the period of significance for the historic district does not extend past the early 20th century, the landmark county designation for the former station building would encompass the building's use as a railroad structure and extend until 1954. The entire parcel, 0.47 acres, tax map 53, parcel 391, tax ID number 11160000033, was delineated as its historic environmental setting. And before I step down, I would like to acknowledge the very enthusiastic membership of the Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad Historical Society. It was their enthusiastic efforts that brought this landmark nomination forward, and they are incredibly dedicated to keeping railroad history alive, and they could debate the smallest detail about railroad history that you could possibly imagine, and I could not have processed this nomination without their assistance. So thank you.
Very nice. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilman Marks?
So this is one of the last stretches of this railroad even left in Baltimore County, or this part of Baltimore County, except for the abutments in Towson and the old alignment along Cromwell Bridge Road. There's really not much left.
That is correct. This has the best level of integrity that allows you to kind of get the idea of what the railroad was like.
Yeah, and then you have to get up to Harford County, where they've done a nice job, I think, of protecting the remaining alignment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Glen Arm Railroad Station. Other questions or comments? Councilman Catch?
Yeah, just on Lake Avenue in Baltimore City, there is a building that used to be a station. Was that on the Mom Pop Railroad? It was. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Just curious.
Yeah, it's Baltimore City.
Right. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know it's Baltimore
I
City.
believe it's actually been converted into a residence, I think.
What's that?
I believe it was converted into a residence, actually.
And someone will tell us what the future plans are for the building?
It's my understanding, having met with the new owner, that the intention is to turn it into a little coffee shop, which has met with very enthusiastic responses. Seems very ideally situated for that kind of business.
And they'll be eligible for tax credits,
Yes.
et cetera? Good, good.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions or comments from the council for Ms. Rising? Everybody good? Everybody good?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rising. And I do believe we have some public speakers on this tonight.
We
Mr.
have 4
Secretary?
speakers, Mr. Chair.
All righty. Okay, so our first speaker is Rudy Fisher, followed by Richard Anderson, followed by Tom Gernbroth, followed by Paul Wimmer. And Mr. Fisher, if you want to start us off for up to 3 minutes. Yes, sir. You can sit right up front, on deck circle. Thank you. And good evening. Thank you for your work, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the council. I'm the historian for the Maryland, Pennsylvania Railroad Historical Society. I'll just give you a brief history about the station. It was the first railroad station in Glenarm was erected in 1882. Soon after tracks were laid north from Baltimore City had reached the Baltimore County community. For over 75 years from the opening of that first train station in Glenarm until tracks were taken up late in 1958, the railroad station was the most significant and important center for everyday daily life in the community. Mail both to and from Glenarm was handled by the Glenarm station agent. Also, cans of milk brought to the Glenarm station by local dairy farmers were picked up by train each morning, taken to Baltimore City for processing, and after cleaning, those same empty cans were returned by train that very afternoon for those same dairy farmers to be able to use again the next day. The still standing railroad station in Glenarm was built by the Maryland, Pennsylvania Railroad in 1909. It replaced earlier station structures in Glenarm. In 2019, this year, the still standing station is now 110 years old. The Glenarm station is the very last former depot built by the Maryland, Pennsylvania Railroad, still standing in Baltimore County. The Hyde station is still standing, but that was a country store. That wasn't built by the railroad. The station in Forest Hill is the only one built by the Ma and Pa left in Harford County, and those 2 depots are also the only ones of just 5 stations still remaining over the entire 77-mile railroad that ran between Baltimore and York. Designed by Charles Adler Jr. in February 25, 1921, it is what is highly regarded as being the very first train-actuated grain crossing warning signal for vehicles located anywhere in the United States. Was installed at the Glenarm Road grade crossing at the north side of the Glenarm station. For over 50 years, from 1900 until the tracks were removed in 1958, the F.X. Hooper Company, and later the Coppers Company after 1959, was a very important commercial customer for the Maryland, Pennsylvania Railroad in Glenarm. And all rail car shipments, both to and from the F.X. Hooper Company, were handled by the station agent in the Glenarm Depot. I now ask the entire Baltimore County Council to please confirm last year's unanimous vote of the Baltimore County Landmarks Preservation Committee at the June 4th hearing by granting official final landmark status to the historic railroad station in Glenarm. Also, if you want to, real quick, if you want to learn more about the station, on November 10th, Sunday, November 10th, I'm giving a presentation at the Baltimore County Historical Society from 2 to 4. So if you want to learn more, we'll be doing Baltimore City and Baltimore County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Richard Anderson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I'm Richard Anderson. I am the chairperson of the 200-member Ma and Pa Historical Society. We'd like to thank you for agreeing to vote on granting the approval of the landmark status to the Glenarm Station. The Glenarm Station, as you've heard several times already, is one of only 4 stations that are left in the 77 miles, and it is the only one that is in relatively original condition that is ever found in Baltimore County, and we really appreciate your efforts to preserve this historic structure. So thank you, and thank you for Terry's efforts too.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Our next speaker is Tom Gernbroth.
Yep. Good evening to everyone. You need to look back across the history of our country. The railroads built our country. The Maryland, Pennsylvania Railroad and its predecessors built Baltimore County. It came out of Baltimore City, went through many towns, Homeland, someplace called Towson, Glenarm, Long Green, Hydes, and Baldwin, and all the way up to York, Pennsylvania. You need to think about the fact that in those early days, if you wanted to go anywhere, you had to hitch up the horse and buggy and travel across mud-covered roads and whatever, whereas farmers, dairymen, ordinary citizens, manufacturing people, and mail could be put on the railroad, and it could move very quickly in relative comfort. This station, though it's been neglected over the years, is in remarkably good condition, and the new owner wants to restore it to its original condition, which is just great. So with that, I fully support the effort to place this station on a historic register, and I would ask you to do so, to whatever you can to help preserve the station for future generations. And even though I have 1 minute and 45 seconds left, I'll yield my time.
Thank you. And then our last speaker for the evening on this issue is Mr. Paul Wimmer.
Thanks for coming in, Tom.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and council members. My name is Paul Wimmer. I'm a resident of Baltimore County, Phoenix, Maryland, and a train enthusiast and toy train collector. I don't want to repeat things that have already been said, but I guess in summary, as a train enthusiast, you have to love the Ma Railroad. There's something about a little short line railroad that took 77 miles to get to York, which is closer to about 50 miles as the crow flies. In addition, passenger service, which ended in 1954, the ride from Baltimore to York took about 4 hours. So think of what we do today going up I-83. But nevertheless, as has been pointed out, it's an important piece of Maryland railroading history and Baltimore County history as well. So I would encourage you to approve that, give final approval as a Baltimore County landmark. One thing to piggyback on what Rudy Fisher just mentioned, it is the site of the first train-actuated crossing signal in the United States. So I would encourage the county council to consider possibly erecting a plaque or something at that location. I think it's certainly fitting to have the first of anything in the United States right in Glenarm. In addition to all of that, I have a family connection to the Ma Railroad. My father-in-law, Elwood Amrine, started work in 1927 when he was 17 years old with the Ma Railroad. And he continued working there in various capacities. He did serve as a station agent at various stations and sometimes filled in at Glenarm. He retired from the Ma in 1958 when they ended operations in Maryland. And then his brother, Carl Amrine, who is my wife's uncle, he basically worked his entire career with the Ma, and he retired as president of the Ma in 1971. So I would strongly urge you to give final approval to the Glenarm Station as a Baltimore County landmark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of the council, thank you all for your dedication and your real passion for the community. I just think that's just wonderful, all the time you all spend to really help the citizens at large and enjoy something that hopefully future generations can also enjoy. So thank you all really sincerely for your efforts and all your volunteer service to this county.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Couch?
I want to thank you for coming this evening and all the work that you've done to get this station on Baltimore County's landmarks list. And I'll say I go to a lot of train shows, and the one in Timonium was called the Great Something. They're always there, and they have a lot of good materials, and I appreciate all that you do. I live on the North Central line, and I do want to talk with you when this is over about something Lionel is doing.
Councilwoman Bevins?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to echo what my colleagues have said and thank Tom Dermerl, who lives in my district. Thank you so much for all the work that you put in to this wonderful effort. I appreciate it.
Any other comments, thoughts, anything else for the council? Everybody good? All right. Thanks again. Meeting's adjourned. I wish everybody
I just wanted to
Yeah.
advise that you obviously aren't asked to take any action tonight, that you don't have a lot of these, so, but within 90 days, Mr. Catch will